Hey there, I was having trouble with OBS keeping the camera in focus. So I am here now. I don't really like this vibe of this, but what am I going to do? Not quite in tune. So I'm basically just playing around in that major diatonic scale right there. I guarantee the G string's out of tune. Flat. Gibsons, man. Even with this giant contraption on the headstock, Gibsons can't stay in tune. I don't really have a trouble with my Dove or my other acoustic, my folk singer. But those darn electrics, man. My Les Paul, this guitar, the SG is less. I'm not sure it's exact same headstock configuration, but something about the tension on the nut here with the G string. Hey Joseph, what's going on? But it's weird. I'm getting everybody's like handle. Well, I know that Amazon services had a big issue last night. In fact, they're still down. Yeah, see, Bruce, no one's handles are here. It's all your ats. So that's interesting. Yeah, full name again. It may be related to Amazon. Like I would assume that Google has their own servers. Yeah, that's not something that I don't think that's my participants moderation activity timestamps. Yeah, I don't have a control for that. That's not at my end, sadly. Otherwise, I would change it. Channel activity, put user in timeout, hide user, add as monitor. No, I don't see a way to change that. So it might just miraculously change. It's happened before, and I'm not sure if the last time it happened, if it automatically corrected itself in midstream, or if it was like the next time we got together, it was fine. I wrote the scale without any fret position, so it could be anywhere. It could be A flat. It could be G. So let's do this scale a few times. Let's do it. Let's just start in G, okay? The left side of it is the low string, and the right side is the high string, okay? So here's the first note down there, R, and that's the root. R stands for root. And then we have pinky, and then 1, 2, 4. Again, we're at the second fret. The beauty of this scale is it's all within 4 frets, so you can just assign a finger to each fret and you're golden. So in this case, we're assigning our first finger to the second fret, and then everything lines up after that. So we have, starting at the bottom, 2, 4, and I'm talking about fingers here. 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4 again, 2, 4, 1, 2. Okay? Maybe try to do all alternating picking on the right hand. Okay, let's start on G. Let's go. I'll go slower. 1, 2, quarter notes. 4. Okay, backwards. 3, 4. Okay, up a fret. Hey, Bob. Holly. So now we're in A flat. 1, 3, 4. 2, 4. 1, 2. Backwards. If you already have it down, just go up and down while we're in A flat. Okay, now move up to A. So this would be A. The starting note is A, so this is an A major scale. Or A Ionian. Am I going too fast? The idea is to get it under your fingers, where you're not even thinking about it necessarily. Go up to the B flat. And so you really only need to know for this scale the notes on the bottom string. And then you'll be able to find every scale, all 12, using this shape. Up to B, so our first finger is going to be at the 6th fret. Our second finger starts on the 7th fret, bottom string. 3, 4. Oh, thanks, Bob. Yeah, that's what I figured. I could log out and then we could start over again, but... All right, let's go to C. So at the 7th fret, we're going to start on the 8th fret with our second finger. 8, 10, 7, 8, 10, 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 10, 8, 10, 7, 8. All right, so that thing I did just a second ago we talked about before, which is just playing every other note in the scale. So let's go ahead and do the C scale again. You know, so you're just a little bit more familiar with it. And I can tell that, hey, Boulder, Colorado. I've been to Boulder. Great restaurants. And completely irrelevant of scale or theory or anything like that, I could give each one of those notes a number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now that would have some relationship to intervals and dyads, but I don't want to confuse the issue. I'm just numbering them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I could even go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P, but that would just make it, that's more confusing. So by thinking that way, I can kind of maybe more easily visualize patterns. So like, for example, 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 5, 4, 6, 3, let's see what, 5, 7, 6. I don't know if that's easier, or you could think root third, second, fourth, third, fifth, fourth, sixth, fifth, seventh. And so what I'm doing there is every other note. And then you could do it descending. Okay, so try that. So we're going to go second finger on the bottom string and then first finger on that. And so there we have 1 and 3, and then we have 2 and 4 with the pinky, and then 3, 5, and then the 4th and the 6th, the 5th and the 7th. Okay, let's just try that much right there. See if we can get that down. Okay, that's what we're going to try to do. So, okay, I'm at the 8th fret. So second finger, first finger, 4th finger, second finger, first finger, 4th finger, second finger, first finger, the third finger, I'm sorry, 4th finger, 3rd finger, first finger, 4th finger. I mean, there's so many ways we can approach this thinking wise. I can go frets. So I have 8, 7, 10, 8, 7, 10, 8, 7, 9, or 10, 9, 7, 10. Again, let's go slow here. Second finger on the bottom string, first finger on the 5th string, then pinky on the bottom string, 10th fret, and then second finger on the 5th string, and that would be the 8th fret, and then 7th fret on the 5th string, and then 10th fret on the 5th string, and then we're going to go to the second finger on the 5th string, and then hit the first finger, and then pinky, and hit the 3rd finger. It's kind of hard. And then we have actually we should go a little bit further. We have the 7th fret, and then first finger on the 4th string, and then the pinky on the 4th string, and then we should go to the 3rd finger on the 4th string, go to the 3rd string with your first finger, and that's the 7th fret, and then the root, basically the 10th fret of the 4th string. So and that would be, for example, over a C major 7 chord. If we went to a C dominant 7th, we'd want to take that B note and go down to B flat and create a dominant sound. So that would be like this. And the reason we're doing that, for one thing, it's just to kind of hammer home the scale, make it even more familiar to your fingers. You need to have options. You need to be able to almost approach things in so many different ways. You could even do this backwards. It's hard because you're going to have to lay down fingers to get notes on the same frets on different strings. So, see, I have to go first finger to second finger, and then I have to lay down my second finger to get that F note to get to the D, and then I have to lay the pinky down to get to the G note to go to the E, and so on and so forth. So For now, we're just going to go up 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 5, 4, 6, 5, 7, 6, 1, and then we can think 6 root, and then we can think 7, 2 root. And then you go from there if you want. But the way to make it kind of beboppy is to approach each one of those dyads. We have dyad is 2 notes, and we're only playing 2 notes. So that's like if you're playing them together, that's a dyad. Technically, if you play them apart, that would be called an interval. So that's an interval, and that's a dyad. Okay. So, but we approach each of these little 2-note riffs chromatically, meaning we start 1 fret below the first note, not the scale tone below the first note. Don't worry if you don't understand what I'm saying. It'll get explained different ways, or you'll see it and you'll see it. But, and I think we did this last week or the week before. But basically what's happening is I'm going to, instead of starting on C, I'm going to start on the, you could think C flat, but it's really B. C flat to C, and then the E. Okay? And then on the next one, instead of starting on D, I'm going to start on D flat to go to D. To F. So try that right now. Go 7, 8, 7. Okay? And then go 9, 10, 6. And don't put a pause between them. Don't go. Try to do them right after each other. You can go super duper slow. Okay? But that you start to hear like, wait, those are notes that are not in the key. However, every single one of those notes that are not in the key are leading to a note that's in the key. So it creates this tension resolution thing multiple times in just playing a line. If I play the whole thing that way. And now you wouldn't ever do that in particular, but you might do something like or you could go, or the F. So you're basically kind of doing a 4-5-1 thing there. And so it's a way to avoid playing scales and make your improvisation a little bit more interesting. Now, again, this is really kind of in the jazz context, and I doubt that any of you are doing jazz gigs. The only reason I started working on this is because I got called, I've been working on a TV show called Palm Royale, and I got called into a session to do a live recording, and everyone on that live recording are jazz monsters, and I wasn't. And so I'm like, I hope I'm not going to have to improvise. Never did. Kind of did a little bit. He just said, do some fills here and there in this one piece, and I did that, and they said next. So I guess they liked what I did. I don't know. So yeah, Palm Royale is on Apple Plus, and is it Kristen Wiig and Carol Burnett, who I love. Yeah, if you look at it, it's kind of the fun thing. The thing I thought was kind of cool was there were a couple actresses in the show where they were kind of like pseudo successful in the 80s, like The Facts of Life. The girl that was kind of the bigger girl with the brown hair, she's in it. So it's like these actresses that haven't gotten maybe the best gigs lately or haven't worked in a long time. There are a couple of them in this series where they've gotten some work, which I always like. It's like, oh, that's awesome that they're still able to do it, or somebody thought of them. I always like that when I see an actor like, oh my gosh, that's so and so from some show in the 80s or 90s or 70s even. Yeah, so But yeah, if you get a chance, if you have Apple Plus, okay, I'll tell you that if you have an Apple iPhone, it's super duper easy to get Apple Plus. So they just raised the rate. Is it $11.99 now? I forget. They raised it, but you can turn it on for a month and then turn it off. It's super easy. You don't have to pay for a whole year, which is nice. So if you want to, I really liked particularly the first season of Ted Lasso. I thought that was a super sweet show. And I thought the reason it was successful was because he was a genuinely nice guy, and those don't exist in Hollywood, TV shows and movies and things like that. So that's why it was successful. First off, people wanted to see that. They want to see somebody that's a nice guy, and it was because that's not normally done. It came off as being different. It was like, wow, what's different about this show? I can't figure it out. I mean, even the intro gives it away, where he sits in a chair and it turns all the red chairs blue, or all the blue chairs red. I can't remember what happens, but his kindness spreads. Yeah, it's kind of the moral. Does it work in real life? I kind of wish. My experience is, as soon as you're super kind out there, the people that take advantage of you, that their radar gets, oh, I can take advantage of that guy. So I have to be very careful not to get taken advantage of. Alex is the same way. Alex in particular will say yes almost to everything. I'm like, no, you can't. You can't do everything. The noisy tappity tap coming through the. So again, if you get this little, then the next one would be, so the first one we did was just the first two dyads, chromatic approach. So we went B to C, E, then D flat to D to F, then you go E flat, so we're gonna have to go down a fret to the 6th fret, go up to the 7th fret, and then 10th fret. Go ahead and do that. Pretty simple once you have it. So the one before it is this one. That's the D flat to the D to the F. If you swing it, immediately it sounds like bebop. Okay? The next one is, if we want to think of it as F flat, but it's F and A. F and A, dude. Okay? So we have the E, which is the same as F flat. So we're going a half step below the F, hitting E, F, and A. So all of it sounds like this. Okay. Now all of these, if you go to that, the third note in the 3-note grouping. Okay, so we have the chromatic lead in, the root, or the first note, and then the second note. If we go down from that note to the next note in the scale, it kind of has almost a, kind of has this cool resolution. It sounds like it's resolving. But don't worry about that. We're going to just do the chromatic thing at this point. The dyads with the chromatic lead-ins. Okay, then we did E, F to A. Then we're going to do G flat to G, or F sharp to G, and to B. Now again, Sam, are you here? Yeah, Sam is here. It's hard to tell within the name. Again, Sam, I wouldn't analyze any of this. I wouldn't overthink it. It's just because, for one thing, I think literally if I do this for a whole octave, I'm literally playing all 12 notes. So there really is no point in analyzing phrases when you're just going to use all 12 notes. You know, like if I were playing over the C majors and I was just doing a chromatic scale. I didn't do chromatic. It would make zero sense. It would be a waste of your brain energy to go root, flat 9, 9, sharp 9, third, fourth, flat 5 or sharp 4, 5, sharp 5, 6, dominant 7th, major 7th, root. That kind of thinking is going to. I've told you this before. When I finally met one of my guitar idols, Steve Lukather. It was funny because Alex was with me, and I'd been at that point. I think Alex was probably like in high school or junior high, so it was probably 15 years ago. At that point, I'd been in Los Angeles for 25 years at least, and kind of doing what I wanted to do, kind of working my way up. And I moved out here largely to be like the next Steve Lukather, which never happened, of course. Nobody came. Well, Michael Landau kind of came close, but. Yeah, and Dan Huff moved out here and got real close to being the next Lukather because Lukather was going out on the road. Dan Huff's career went like that, took off immediately when he got out here because Lukather was on the road with Toto and he was stopped doing sessions and Dan could really do that Lukather thing. He was really good at it. He had phenomenal gear and great sounds, and he grew up in the studio, so he had a lot of experience. His dad was, I think is still alive, was a major orchestrator. So he grew up going to the studios. So Dan I meet Lukather 25 or 15 years ago, and he says, thinking that I just moved to town to be the next Lukather or something. He goes, well, I'm going to tell you what Larry Carlton told me. Don't think, play. I'm like, actually, we've talked about this. That one of the keys to soloing, you want to have the tools, as many tools as possible, okay? And you go to your auto mechanic and he has a lot of tools. You go into your typical garage, there's not many tools. So you kind of want to be the auto mechanic of guitar and have a lot of tools at your disposal, but you don't want to really think about them. The goal when you're soloing is to kind of get in that place where the music's flowing through you and you're not thinking about it so much. And so that's kind of contrary to how my brain works. But I know the times when I get in that zone, oftentimes if I've done gigs where I'm like, whoa, somebody recorded it and they play it and I went, wow, actually that was a great solo. I didn't think I could, play like that. Things start when you're in the zone, you'll play things that you've never played before. You'll approach things in the ways you've never thought before. I kind of was when I wrote ETA for Bieber. I just kind of got in the zone of that simple progression, and then I started messing around with it. And I swear I did this. I'd never done that before in my life. I don't know. I'm just sliding fifths around, but I know they all work over the E minor chord. So it's like. And the 5-minute track that the guitar recording that I sent to Josh for Justin, they used a lot of it, and they chopped it up and I thought they would just chop up a 4-bar phrase or an 8-bar phrase and loop it, but they used the whole thing. So hey, Catherine, what's going on? Yeah, I should do. Hey, Sadie's here. Holly, I think I said hi to you. Bob, Bruce. Yeah, I got your text last night, Bruce. Sorry. It's been pretty crazy, but just we had Beth's brother was in town last weekend. His widow recently got married, so I finally met his new wife. Beth had met her before back in Indiana, but I hadn't met her, so they came out and spent a long weekend with us, which included Monday morning, and then Saturday we went over to our Alex's in-laws and had dinner, and then Sunday we went out to dinner with Jack's in-laws. So we've just been like socializing like crazy. Beth is like, I can't wait for it to be just us, you know. And so yeah, so that's pretty much what was happening. I've been fairly busy. Work's been fairly busy. I got some stuff coming up, and it's just weird because the Game Sound Con convention is coming up, which is the convention for voiceover actors and for composers and for sound design and for mixing. It's anything related to sound and video games. That convention is just down the street in Burbank for me. I've gone to it in the past. I'm not going to go to it this time. I'm going to go to some dinners. That's really where you make the contacts. But that it's a little slow right now because a lot of composers are getting ready to go to that, and they're not in the middle of stuff. So, okay, so let's just go over what we've done so far with this dyad with a leading tone. So we have 3 notes. We have the leading tone, the first note of the dyad being a 2-note chord, and then the second note, or we could call it an interval. So we're going B, C, E, and we're going to go D flat, D, F, E flat, E, G, E, F, A, and then we have G flat or F sharp, G, B. So this one's kind of cool. This one is almost a nice little exercise. If you just do the F and the G one, I'm swinging it. Now let's see what it sounds like just over this. And I may have to go up an octave to make it kind of pop, but oh, it's so slow. Wait, why is it? I don't understand this tempo. Why do I have it there? Okay. I don't know if I want to make it bebop tempo, but let's go here. Let's just say 120. See what happens. So cheesy. But you can see where it's like, oh wow, that's music. That's a melodic idea. Thank you, Bruce. It's crazy. It's the simplest little, like, you're only taking 2 notes of a scale, but you're leading into it, so now you have 3 notes. And so that, essentially I'm just going F, G, F, G, F, G, but I'm leading into each of those little mini chords, those little dyads. And it's a little boring, but it's a good exercise. It uses all 4 fingers. So the next one is A flat, so we're going to go back down to the 6th fret, and then just use the same finger, just use your first finger for the 6th fret, 7th fret, and then now you're back on the root. There's a C note. A flat, A, C. So all of them so far. All right. And you could think of it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we're doing the scale tones. And then each riff is kind of wrapped around those. Each of these 3 notes is wrapped around that scale tone. We're leading chromatically up to that scale tone, B to C, and then we're hitting the 3rd. And then, so the middle note of that triad is actually, or those 3 notes is actually the note that we're kind of centering on. The next one, we go to the next scale, the next note in the scale, sorry, D. I'm going to go chromatically to D. So for D flat, then D, and then F. again. So as you do this, you can just see, you can see that scale go right up there. I don't know if I'm loud enough. Did anybody say anything? All right, so that's just another way you can think of it. Because, like I say, I always try to teach things from different angles and different directions, because we all learn differently. And I guess there's 8 ways people learn, and schools typically teach 1 or 2 ways, which usually leaves boys in the dust. I know I was left in the dust, but that's just because I'm a moron. Memorization is not one of my strong suits. Okay, so again, this is just a tool. Now, just to give you like, well, this is just a little thing. Yeah, well, you can keep going. So you could do the dyad. So I'm going B, C, E. Or I could do the triad. B, C, E, G. Right? I could do the 7th chord. I could do the 9th chord. And then I could... Okay, do you see that? So you can actually turn it into much bigger licks, each individually, and you could alternate. So let's see my brain. We'll see if I can do it. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the C note. I'm going to do D, E, and F. And what I'm going to do is for the C, I'm just going to do 3 notes. I'm going to do the diatonic lead in, B, C, and then the 3rd. For the D, I'm going to do the diatonic lead in, so to D, so the 1, the D flat, D. I'm going to go to the F, and I'm going to go to the A. So now I'm making a D minor triad. So we had a C dyad and a D minor triad. Then I'm going to do an E minor 7. Okay, but I'm going to lead into that chromatically. And then I'm going to do a F major 9th with a chromatic lead in. So I'm going to go. Oh, that's hard because my note here is right before this note. So I'm going to have to know that I'm going to that. No. Ah, shoot. And that might make more sense not to go so crazy. So what I just did there was I did a dyad, a triad, a dyad, a triad. Okay? So when I'm doing the dyad, a dyad's 2 notes, but I'm adding the chromatic note, so that's 3 notes. When I'm doing the triad, it's 3 notes, but I'm adding the chromatic note, so it's 4 notes. So I'm going to go like a C dyad with the chromatic. Then I'm going to do a D minor triad. And then I'm going to do the E minor dyad. And then I'm going to do the F major triad. So Pepper, what I'm doing is everything I'm doing is pretty much wrapped around this major diatonic scale. Oh, and high, Pepper. Okay. So that might be a little bit more musical rather than trying to create some, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever kind of 5, 2-note thing, 3-note thing, 4-note thing. So I'm going to kind of alternate between dyads and triads, and I'm going to try anyway. That would sound like this. And that, because I'm mixing it up a little bit, sounds more random and less like a lick, right? Or less like an exercise. Yeah, I'm in C major in this case. Yep, right here. So my first finger generally is going to be assigned the 7th fret. Notice also how I'm not tucking my pinky away. Back when I first started playing, like I might go like this. My pinky, on those last 2 notes, my pinky might be back here. I kind of got I feel like this classical guitar exercise that the 1 4 3 4 2 4 3 4. I feel like that one exercise did wonders at keeping my pinky out and available. All right. So again, what I did there was a dyad C. It's pretty cool. It sounds pretty random. Now, even though many of those chromatic lead-in notes are not in the key of C, they're wrong. You're on them for such a short amount of time. If we were to sit on them, then that's where we would want to pull out the music theory and go, is this a good note? Like if I play, I'm going to loop just the C chord, I think. And I could go through. I could do that the flat 5 or the sharp 4, and it makes this C major 7 chord sound more mysterious. But most of the chromatic notes there wouldn't work. The only one that kind of works is the one. But if I'm just using them as a leading tone to get to a note, I'm not sitting on them, I'm just using them, then you don't really even notice. You don't have to think about that. But the fact that it's just sitting on that kind of very vanilla C major chord and not going anywhere does make a lot of these lines not work, because you're like, well, what's the progression? Where's the 5 chord? The 5 chord is the one that we can always have the most fun with, right? Hey, Jay, what's going on? Sorry about the handles are all jacked up. I don't think it has anything to do with the Amazon server being down. Because I would assume that Google has all their own servers. I probably touched my face. I don't know. Everybody take a sip. Yes, I'm getting fancy. But if you have the whole progression in there, you have the 2 5 1, or if I put in like the, I could put in the. So let's see. Oops. All right, now let's see. What do I want? So that's C. I want A minor. What's this? Here's our A. I want A. Okay, here I want this, and I want these to go down. Okay. All right, and I need to change the bass. Where's the bass? Here's the bass. Oh, really? Nope. There we go. So 1 6 2 5 progression. But yeah, so I think all those chromatic licks make sound a lot more appropriate when you have a more of a 2-5-1 progression of some kind. The reason is because when it was just the C major 7 chord, it didn't sound like bebop. It just sounded like a C major 7 chord. But even if the drums are going, pss, 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 it doesn't matter. You need some chord changes, and if you're gonna sit on one chord in bebop, it's probably gonna be a dominant 7th chord. I think of kind of the Miles Davis, was that All Blues or something? I can't remember what that one's called. It starts out with like 8 bars of C7 or B flat 7 or whatever key it's in. So, oh yeah, this Gibson. It's not an old one, I wish, but it's a 59 reissue. So it's got the dot necks like the old 59s. They only had sunburst. I like this color. It was what Larry Carlton had, kind of like this. Although he had a newer one and it had the block inlays. Lee Ritenour had a red dot neck. I think, did he lose that in the fire? Not this last fire, but like a few years ago, maybe 5 or 6, 7 years ago, there was a fire in Malibu, and Lee Ritenour, I think, was in Japan, and he lost pretty much everything that was in his studio, his home studio. Oh, dang. The stepmom took it. That's not right. I had a stepmom that left my dad, and all she left, he went out of town to go to, had to go to a convention he was in the furniture industry, and they would have this 2-week market in North Carolina. He went to the 2-week market and he came back. All the furniture was gone. The only things left in their house was his congas and his record collection. That was it. She took everything. It was like, oh my gosh. Now, he didn't have any guitars or anything, but... And even all that stuff he donated to the college in San Antonio, so... Dang, yeah, I know, right? Oh yeah, that was bad. I don't know if she's still alive, but she found me. Like, all of that happened probably back in like 83 or something. They were married about maybe 8 years, I think. So yeah, that sounds about right. That would have been 83. And they were kind of white trashy, you know. Not my dad, but she was, and that was part of the mistake. Her kids were kind of like druggies and stuff, and they were just not, you know. And they weren't like us. And I wouldn't say we were, you know, upper class or anything, not like that, but, you know, we kind of grew up. My mom taught us manners, and we were all pretty self-sufficient, and we were all motivated and all that. So, me and my 2 sisters, because my older sister's a pretty well-known painter, and my little sister's a fashion designer, and I'm a guitar player. So my parents got a triple dose of the artistic kids, which I don't necessarily recommend, but it worked out for us. And normally it doesn't. I would say it's less than 1% of the time, at least in my field. But that stepmom, she found me online and she called me. And we actually had a very pleasant conversation. You know, I'd like totally forgotten about her. And she calls me, and even when she said her name, I was like, I'm sorry, who? And I was like, oh, dang, hi, long time no speak, how are you doing, blah, blah, blah. And she was telling me just some basic stuff about where she was in life and, you know, how happy she is or whatever. And she said, hey, do you happen to have your dad's number? I would love to just to catch up with him. Blah, blah, blah. So I what was I going to say? I don't have my dad's phone number. This is story time, by the way. So I gave her my dad's phone number, and about an hour later, my dad calls me, and he was so mad at me because he said, "Do you know who called me?" I said, "Yeah, I have a feeling I know." And he goes, "Well, she just told me for the last 45 minutes how great her life is and how much she's so happy she wasn't with me." And she just wanted him. I mean, this is like, seriously, this was probably 30 years later. Like, both of them are retired. Both of them are probably in their 70s. And it was, she just wanted to call and rub his face in it. And it was like, well, the funny thing was, I did a little research on her and found that everything she told him, and even me, because she told me a lot of this stuff, and I was just happy for her. I thought, oh, great. You met a rich guy or whatever, and you're living in a mansion. Great, Well, I found her online, and I found that she lived in an apartment complex. And when I looked at the apartment complex and I checked out crime stats, it was like there are shootings there. I mean, it was a real crappy apartment complex. So I don't know what she, what she was smoking, but she wasn't living the life. Yeah, see, that's right. She wasn't happy, and she was lying, and yeah. Oh, yeah, this is a 335. This is exactly a 335, not 345, not a 3. It's a pretty basic guitar. 345s, I think, had the switch that you could do like 5 different positions. Oh, no, it's fine. They're both, as far as I know, she's gone. My dad passed away, oh gosh, 3 days after I turned 50, so it's been over 14 years. Yeah, I just felt bad that I gave her his number, but I'm not exactly sure if she called me 10 different times, I probably would have given her my number each, given her his number each time. I'm not sure especially since she set me up. Like, if she had called and said, "Hey, what's your dad's number? I want to chew him out and give him tell him how great I'm doing and how I don't miss him at all and how I hate him," or whatever, I would have said, "My dad passed away." Like, he's not alive anymore. So, oh man, my dad was so mad. He forgave me, but it was like, "I'm sorry, Dad. She totally conned me. She totally conned me." So, yeah, no drug like a long-held grudge. Yeah, you're right. Forgiveness is not for the person you're forgiving. Forgiveness is for you. And when you hear people forgiving, horrible things, you're like, how can you do that? And it's like, and especially if it's a sincere forgiveness. If you just say, "I forgive you," and you don't mean it, that's different. But if you literally forgive someone, and people have had horrific things done, but if you don't, you run the risk of whatever horrible thing happened to you defining you for the rest of your life. And that's just, there's a lot of horrible things that can happen to people. You can have a bad car accident, you could be raped, your parents could be murdered. I mean, all these things, it's just like, yeah, let's talk about that. Here, bebop. Parents murdered. It's like that Steve Martin bit where he's like, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. If you're playing banjo, it's happy, Was he? That's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I didn't really have any problems with my stepmom. Because we only lived in, let's see, they got married probably in, I'm guessing 75, and I moved here in 83, but they moved away. My dad kept changing jobs. We've talked about this. I mean, I went to 5 different elementary schools in different states growing up. So I lived in the same apartment building for 32 years. Once my life was mine to live, I lived in Pasadena for almost 40 years. I didn't move at all. So that was in some ways part of it. But my dad just wasn't happy with his career, so he kept changing jobs. Like he didn't like his career, so he didn't like every job he had in it. It makes complete sense. And so it was in '74 when my parents got divorced, and my dad was starting to, prior to the divorce, my dad was starting to, I guess, tell my mom he didn't like his job, and she knew what that meant. She knew that we were going to have to pack up the kids again, pack up the house. We had a beautiful house in a beautiful neighborhood. She's like, it was actually, when I think back, well, the house in Potomac, Maryland was pretty nice. Sam Donaldson lived 2 doors down. I kid you not. He took me trick-or-treating when I was 7 with his kids, me and my sister. The Pennsylvania house was on a busy street, but it was set back, and it was what are those called? The salt shaker? Kind of, it was like an old house, like over 100 years old. Kind of a cool house. It was a big property with a, stream in the backyard and stuff. The house before that in Indianapolis was on a busy street, but the second time we moved to Indianapolis, it was a kind of a neighborhood surrounded by forest. So it was like 15 houses on a cul-de-sac surrounded by woods. Like the year I moved to California, like '83, they tore down the woods and built these giant apartment complexes. Or not apartment complexes, they were like townhomes, and they made lakes and they put townhomes on. Never heard them or anything, but we didn't have the woods to go, messing around it. We used to hike all over those woods. There were paths everywhere. I mean, it was cool. We'd find stuff out there like, what's this, So, yeah, that was kind of my childhood, moving around a lot. But I think I would have been 10 or 11 when I moved to Indianapolis the second time. Yeah, she took all my mother's stuff. Oh, wait. Oh. Yeah. Oh, he wished to be buried. You can kiss my butt. Yeah. Bobby Knight. Oh, my God. You love your surrogate stepdad. Yeah, I mean, Beth's stepdad, really, she called dad because her father was non-existent. So when her mom got remarried, that God bless Jim. I mean, I love Jim. He was great. He raised 6 kids and put a couple of them through college that weren't his kids. And, they were married for 40 years when he died. So they had been married for 40 years when he died. Let's see. Yeah, she took all my mother's stuff and my dad's stuff, and the Grinch would be envious. She took even the family Bible. The heck? Yeah, it's funny. I mean, Beth and I have been married, and Beth's twin brother's wife passed away two and a half years ago, and he just got remarried. And it is kind of causing some stress among one of his kids, like, what is this new person you've brought into our family? And you understand, especially guys are less likely to be alone, want to be alone. But Beth and I, of course, because of all this, we're talking like, well, she's like, well, if anything happens to you, I'm not getting remarried. She goes, I'll never find anybody like you. And I went, well, yeah, thank God. But it's kind of, I feel like that's got to be a real consideration. Like, you don't want to, like, if say I married someone like that was 7-8 years younger than me. Well, I might have to set it up so I'm taking care of her after I'm gone, and my kids will get nothing. And I've worked for savings, and I want to, not retire. Me, I probably won't ever retire unless people stop calling. Oh, look, they said yummy. But it just is a weird thing. And if you found the right person, or maybe they had their own money and you could kind of keep your finances separate, yeah. But no, Pepper, you could totally bring up your family stuff. That's totally fine. I don't have a problem. Oh, gee. Also, the family tree. That's crazy. Yeah, I know. No, I know the family Bible Southern tree thing. I mean, the Southern thing in the yeah. It's. I don't think it's purely Southern. A lot of people wrote the family tree in there. Have you spoken to her about that? Is she still alive? Well, she probably, yeah. I mean, it's just. My mom was really, really, really conscious of what was my stepdad's and what was hers. When we, when we moved her out here, my stepdad died a long time ago, 34 years ago, this year before my oldest son was born. And I love my stepdad. He was great. He taught me a lot. He taught me about finance. The reason I have any savings at all is because of him. He had scams, not illegal scams, but he had scams. It was crazy. The stuff he did, I was like, wow, how did you think of that? But one thing when he back in 1980, interest rates were crazy. They were like 20%. It was insane. I think they're high now. They were crazy then. And he had one mutual fund and another fund, two different companies, and they both had the rule that if you deposited a check, they would start paying interest as soon as you deposited the check. And they also both had the rule that if you wrote a check, you would get interest on that money up until the check clears. So once the check goes through the banking system and then they see it, and they give the money to the other entity, then that's when they would stop paying interest, right? So he would go in on Friday afternoon and write a check for like $50,000 from one account to the other account. And it wouldn't clear the banking system until Tuesday. So he would be earning, 18% interest on $50,000 over the weekend, like for 5 days. And then that next Friday, he would go to the bank. And, we were calculating it was like $300 to write a check. He would make $300 in interest or something like that just to write a check. And then then he would write a check from that entity over to the other one on the next Friday. And if it was a holiday weekend, like if Monday was a holiday, it wouldn't deposit till Wednesday. So we'd get like 5-6 days out of it. I mean, he knew how to work the system. He was hilarious. Bill and Bill Bone Baggins. No, Bill Bone, Bone, like chicken bone. And it was like, whoa. So now the rule is, they changed the rule. I'm like, at some point, and of course, if the interest rates are 0.01%, it's not worth it. But it's not worth the paper you would write the check on. But they changed the rule, like, in 81 or 82, to do that kind of transfer and to get interest right away, you had to wire transfer, which meant immediately the money went out of the account. So that was the end of that. But he did it well. He let him do it. Oh, now this one's a tad dishonest. He went to over 100 countries. He took my mom to probably 50 countries. He loved traveling. That was his big thing. And so, but way back in the 70s, maybe even in the 60s, they had frequent flyer programs. But frequent flyer programs were like these cards, and you get like stuff written on them. And it was like, or little sheets or whatever. And he would be flying on a free trip. Okay, so he's got a free trip with an airline, TWA or Pan Am. He's probably the reason both of them don't exist anymore. Continental. So he would get on the plane, and then he would run off the plane, go up to the gate and say, oh, I forgot to get credit for my miles. And they would give him credit for the miles of that flight, even though it was a free flight. I don't know how many times he did this, but he would talk about it. Bill was a character. I remember he got a speeding ticket. He went to a Purdue football game with our next door neighbor. And leaving the game, he got pulled over for speeding. And it was right around this time of year, and the time change had happened, like the week before or something. And yeah. Then so he got pulled over for speeding. So he gets the ticket. He looks at the ticket, and he had one of those cars that was like, in the sun, the car looked green. It was a Cadillac. In the sun, it looked green. In the night, it looked blue, right? And so it was probably 5 o'clock in the evening. It was getting dark. It was after the game. He's coming home and everything. And the time change had happened the week before. So the officer wrote blue, and he wrote 6 o'clock. And so, it was, I don't know what speeding ticket would have been back then. Maybe $70. He drives up to the court. He goes before the judge, and I think the officer had to sit there because, like, I know back in the day, if you wanted to contest a ticket, then that meant the officer had to show up and plead his case or whatever. And the judge said, what's going on? Why are you contesting this ticket? He goes, well, he said my car's blue, but here on the registration it says green. He says it was 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, but it was actually 5 o'clock. How would he know how fast I was going? And the judge threw it out. I was like, oh man. He was a cheapskate, but he also was he liked winning the game kind of thing. We played tennis all the time too. We used to play tennis all the time. And he hated it when I beat him. But he was a good guy. He didn't understand my career choice at all. He was a very practical guy. He worked for Lincoln National Life, and he also ran a company that did pensions for small companies. So he ran pensions for small companies too. And then he did this thing for traveling. So check this out. I'm going to put down my guitar. Where's stand right here. He, back in the 60s and 70s, he'd be a tour guide. So if you were a tour guide and you took like 20 people to Madrid, you basically get a free trip, and then they all tip you something when they're done, and so you can walk away with a free trip and cash, right? Hey, French. No, it looks like it says French restaurant. Sorry, I'm in story time now. Sorry, but you can rewind and go see some of the lesson. I actually started the lesson almost immediately once I got on. Usually I talk for 10 minutes. I can talk for 1,000 minutes, but I talk at the beginning. But I kind of went right into it. So if you go back, if you want, you can hang out now with us and then later go back. That's what I would do. That's what everybody here is doing. So Bill, I kid you not, he would get a book on a city in the world he's never been to. He would read it, and then he'd do a tour. So most of the time when he did these tours, and I don't know how often he did it, I don't remember him ever doing it after my parents got married. I think it was something he did when in between marriages, between his first wife and my mom, which he was married to until he died. He would go to a town, fly on a trip, and he just kind of wing it. And he very likely knew more than everyone else on the trip. I mean, most people would take a tour of Madrid but he did Moscow. Behind the Iron Curtain, he took a group of people to Moscow because he read a book. And so after they got the hotel, they got everybody checked in and everything, the first night in Moscow, he couldn't sleep, of course, right? And so the thing he thought was, maybe I'll go get a drink and that'll help me go to sleep. So he just went walking on the streets of Moscow. This would have been in the early 70s probably. And he told me this story. And he um, went into this bar and ordered a drink. And he got arrested because he went into a military bar. There was a bar reserved only for soldiers and people that worked in the military in Moscow, which was probably a lot of high up people. He just walks in a bar and it's like he couldn't read the signs. So he got arrested. Now he talked his way out of it, I'm sure, and so he finished the tour and everything. But that's kind of the kind of thing that would happen to Bill. What was it? Oh man. Anyway, but so all that to say, my mom, when after Bill passed and everything, through the years, I mean, Bill passed in, what did I say? 90. Alex was born in 90. He passed in 91, and my mom passed in 2017. So she lived another 26 years after that. But we sold our house and liquidated all the assets and everything. My step siblings. So mom had marked every item in that house, and it was either hers or Bill's. And so we got everything that was ours, and they got everything that was theirs. And there was some stuff of ours that they wanted and we didn't want and they could have. And there was some stuff of theirs that we wanted and they didn't want and we could have. So I do have some stuff that, because Bill was my stepdad and his mom was my step-grandmother, and I loved her, Junie. And so it's cool to have some of that stuff in our house. But he had antiquities. Junie had a bunch of stuff because he traveled all over the world and would pick up stuff. And I think one of the rugs, the rug in our bathroom, it was in Istanbul. I think they bought it in Istanbul, Mom and Bill. So there were also things that they bought together. And we kind of worked it out. It was all, So, see you, Sam. Probably already gone. Oh, man. Sadie, what are we talking about Norm's? I know. I can't go to Norm's anymore. I think Norm's mad at me, so. He literally thought I was trying to buy a guitar off a customer that came in. I was like talking to the customer because we were both just hanging out, and he was showing me the guitar, and then Norm came over and thought it was my guitar. And I said, no, we're just talking. It's his guitar. And then Norm gave him an offer, and I said, that's not a bad deal. And then Norm came over to me and then Norm walked away. So that's the deal I'm going to give you. And the guy was like, I don't know. I think I'm going to keep the guitar. And it was a one of two guitar. It was a Gibson acoustic, and it was a Gibson Pirate guitar. So it had all these pirate things. Well, he worked on, this guy was a producer on Pirates of the Caribbean, and Gibson made two guitars, one for Johnny Depp and one for this guy. And so he has this kind of one-off guitar that only Johnny Depp has, and he has the other. And I don't think Norm saw the value in that, or what? No, he saw the value in it. He didn't. He's a businessman. I don't fault him for that. But for some reason, after, I was talking to him afterwards, and he said, I think I'm gonna keep it and go home. I didn't give any advice, zero advice, because I had no idea. Like, the guy wanted like 10 grand for it, and Norm was going to give him he said, well, you can put it on consignment for 10 grand, but I can't give you that, And I went, well, that sounds fair, But then Norm came up to me afterwards and he goes, don't talk to people or something like that. He said, I don't know, he was pissy at me, and I'm like, that 335 I bought from Norm. I bought that 335 from Norm at Norm's Rare Guitars. It's the only thing I bought there. My son actually kind of got, remember I said Alex says yes too much and does. So Norm's son, who's a complete dope head, was doing a record, right? And somehow he got in touch with Alex, and Alex is really good at playing guitar and also producing. And so he said, "Oh, hey, Alex, hey, you want to do it?" And so Alex is thinking, well, this is not a bad idea to maybe like hang out and work a little bit, help Norm's son do some, make a record or whatever. It might, could benefit me. And they would like start late at night, and they would go over. Jordan was his name, and they would go over to like Norm's like warehouse, not Norm's Rare, but warehouse where the real stuff's kept. And they would, he'd say, "Alex, what do you want to play on this?" And Alex would, I'll play a 55 Telly or a 59 Strat or whatever. And so they would just grab stuff and take it back to Jordan's house, which I think was, I don't know if Norm bought him a house or something. And they would do the tracks, and so that was pretty cool. But he was kind of not good music. He was a stoner, so he was just kind of unreliable. He was just like, and Alex is not into that stuff at all. So it just kind of didn't go anywhere. And Alex, I don't even know if Norm would recognize Alex as being the guy that tried to help his son. And I think Alex even tried to help his son kind of get clean a little bit. But it's like, so I don't know. And Norm, if I don't have to ever go there again, I will be very, very happy. In fact, I think the day that I went there and just ran into that guy randomly who had the Gibson, that Johnny Depp Gibson. I wonder if he's got it for sale somewhere or whatever. It might be one of those things that's on Reverb, like somebody just put a really high price on it and then went, "Oh, cool, I'll just enter Pirate Gibson acoustic," because I don't remember what model it was. Maybe a J55. No, nothing. Yeah, so there's nothing there. But the only reason I was talking is because I was waiting for Paul Davids, who was going to meet me at Norm's. And we didn't end up filming or anything there. Paul didn't end up filming. He just wanted to go to Norm's. And so it was Paul, me, and his videographer. And we were hanging out, and Paul was playing some guitars. And, it was just weird. I had a couple salesmen coming up to me like, what are you looking for? And I'm like, I have everything. I have everything I could ever need. So yeah, I don't know. I've had a couple friends go there with guitars to sell, and they really got lowballed. So I don't know. The buzz just stopped. Oh, nice. Oh yeah, let me see if I can. That's a good idea. Let me look for the Johnny. So maybe if I put Johnny Depp, Beth thinks I look like Johnny Depp. I'm not. I don't see it, but Gibson acoustic. Johnny Depp's Jake now. This. Oh, this is it. This is it. So there's two of these. Yep, this is it. I'll just I'll put the link. So this guy had this guitar. I don't know if the article says there were two made. But one of them discovered the story about Ron for really good from the speech. Watch the movie. Bozeman, Lam Jones. Yeah, Ferguson says Disney valued the instrument at $100,000. And this guy had it. Oh, it was... Okay, so keep in mind... I'm going to shut this because it's too bright. Keep in mind, this was... Paul Davids was here. So this was this year. And Paul Davids was here for the NAMM show, which is at the end of January. And what happened in LA at the beginning of January? The fires. And the reason this guy had the guitar out of his house, he was kind of like, I think I want to get rid of it because we had to evacuate and I have guitars that I want to keep forever, but this is not one of them. And I figured before it gets burned up in a fire, so that's why he was there. Oh, there's a buzzing coming from my browser? Is everybody hearing a buzz? I don't hear anything. I hear birds. Sadly, the house behind us is for sale, and I'm afraid they're going to tear it down and build a giant ADU. Or California just passed a law where they can build a 9-story apartment building now in family neighborhoods. Can you believe that? Unfreaking believable. So I'm afraid somebody's going to buy it and build a 9-story apartment building, and I'm going to have 80 families looking down into my pool. I'm like, yeah, we'll move at that point. But unfortunately, my house will be worth half what I paid for it. So that's sad. Unless I build an 8-story apartment building. But yeah. Yeah. I don't hear a buzz. I hear a ringing 24/7. Yeah, it's sad. Bye, Catherine. Here it was on, okay. So here it was on Reverb. When was this? 5 years ago. So he must have listed it, somebody listed it. So it was either Johnny listed it, or this guy had it on listed for a while, 20, but he listed for 30,000 and it didn't sell. So, which makes sense that he wouldn't want to sell it to Norm for 10. I don't know. Hard to value these things. They're one-offs, you know, and it seems like they should be really valuable because you can't get another one, or they're two-offs. Yep. But it's you're trying to find someone to pay you $30,000 for it, or $100,000. It's like Disney says it's worth $100,000. Yeah, how would Disney know what a guitar's worth? So they said it was worth $100,000 to build up hubbub about the movie or something. That was 2003. Sorry, I'm a little blurry here. Oh, Gary, no worries. Oh, the New York Giant. Oh, yeah, that was crazy. I got to watch the highlights from that game. I'm really rooting for Jackson Dart. I mean, dang. You know, and the thing is, now the Colts have Indiana Jones, who's doing great with the Colts, and he was horrible with the Giants. But basically, I don't think he had an offensive line. The Colts have a good offensive line, so that's a big difference. And a running game. I mean, that was the thing. Like, the Giants gave up on Barkley. And they thought, because, you know, rightfully so, running backs tend to have a 3 or 4 or 5 year window, and Barkley's just tearing it up. I don't know if he's the leading rusher. Jonathan Taylor might be. We went to a Rams game a few weeks ago, and I saw Jonathan Taylor do a 50-yard touchdown run. They got called back for holding, which was a bummer. The Colts had 2 touchdowns that were negated. One because the guy fumbled showing off before he got to the end zone. I'm like, that should never happen. He was like, yeah, and then the ball fell out of his hand and rolled out the back of the end zone before he crossed the line. It was really close, too. I mean, it was like he was that far from crossing the line and he let go of the ball. I'm sure some of you saw that. And it was like, and that happened right in front of us because we were in the end zone. Yeah, I should see it. You want to see my view at the game? This is funny. It's like, really? People that have no self-awareness. See if you can see this. Let's see, where is it? Yeah. Can you see that? Dang it. You can't see. It's too bright. There's my view of the the Rams game. The guy in front of me was leaning on the window. Like if he sat back, I could see, but I couldn't see anything. We moved over one seat, and then I was fine. The boys were like, "I'm taller, we'll sit there," but yeah. Oh wait. Oh, used to be the kicker missed 2 extra points. Brutal. Whoa. So when did Bob? Do you still live in New York, or was that, or New Jersey, or wherever? Or I don't remember. I thought you lived in Ohio or something. But when did you have Giants season tickets? My stepdad Bill one year got Colts season tickets. So, and those were, they were probably 30, 50, 40-yard line, pretty far up, something like that. Oh, you were in northern New Jersey. Okay. Yep. I just actually, a friend of mine when I spoke at Concordia University a few weeks ago, he was the worship director at a church in northern New Jersey. It was a very wealthy church too. Like all the financial geniuses, the hedge fund managers, they all went to this church. So they had, he had a hard time getting volunteers. Like nobody wanted to volunteer. But they said, "Well, what do you need?" And I said, "Well, we need we need good band members." And so they would pay. Their band got paid really well because nobody would volunteer for it because they wanted to have their weekends. But okay, in the '80s, after they built the Giants stadium, before SoFi is a great stadium. I mean, I felt like even in the end zone, I felt like our seats were pretty good. We could see really well, except for that big doofus in front of me. It's like, seriously, dude? It's like, wow. And I think a couple times during the game, I turned around to the people behind me and said, "Am I blocking your view?" Just because I wasn't sure. But the seats are kind of stadium seats, right? They're kind of at a steep angle. But he leaned into that window and it's like, or leaned onto the glass there. I was kind of hoping the panel would drop out and then he would just fall down to the next level. And then I'd have a great view. Completely unobstructed view. Sorry, the camera's doing that, trying to focus somewhere other than me. It should focus on me. See, my hands are in focus, but I'm not. Look, come on. What are you thinking I'm doing here, camera? 5 figures for the same seats in the new stadium. For the season or per game? Because our tickets were $40 each. I mean, they were, dang it, that's stupid. Okay, let's see if I can get this to, there we go. Our seats were resales, but I bought them through the Rams website. So, like, if you wanted to resell your seats, you could do it through the Rams website, and I think you would get decent money for it. So, yeah, that's 5 figures. I mean, if you had a business, and how many games is that? Well, back then it would have been 8 games. So, I mean, if you had a business and you had to, kind of schmooze clients, I guess that's a good thing. I mean, five figures. And that was, quite a while ago they went into 5 figures. I don't even want to know what the the box seats are, but because your seats were pretty good seats, did you have kind of preferred parking? Because I've got a friend who's got really, really good box seats at the Dodger games, and speaking of Dodger games, holy cow, Tani. He has preferred parking, and it's literally right by it's like 5 cars from the escalator that takes you up to the boxes. It's like, holy cow. And he's got a big truck because He's got a big truck, and so we just pull in and we go right there. Now you have to wait sometimes through traffic to get there. No preferred parking. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. See that? Yeah. I mean, I got to go. I got Alex and Jack and I told you this story about going to the Angels game. It was the last game of the season. They were not in the playoffs or anything, so it was kind of inconsequential. But I had gas company seats, so we were in the second row, right on the right at third base, and the boys are like 7 and 9 or something, and holy cow, man, those foul balls were coming at us like rockets. Those foul balls were coming at us like rockets, and the boys weren't paying attention. So, it was like the least relaxing thing. Anytime there was a left-hander up, or no, a right-hander up, I had to really pay attention because those balls were like, they would hit the padding below us, and it would just sound like a cannon. Or they go flying over our heads. Fortunately, none came right at us. But I didn't have a glove or anything. I didn't know what I was going to do. And there were people around us. They probably would have caught it or whatever. But I'm like, I was trying to get the boys to pay attention. And I'm like, you guys got to pay attention. Look, there's a batter. Watch the batter. He's going to, he might hit a ball our way. And so they would pay attention for, 60 seconds. And next thing I know, they're like, oh, look, popcorn. So can we get something to eat? Whatever. And yeah. Oh, that's cool. She negotiated to have them put in her name. That's awesome. Yeah, so I had a friend that worked for the gas company. He said, hey, you want some gas company tickets? So I thought the boys would like it. It was fun. It wasn't bad. Actually, the food at Angel Stadium back then, it was a long time ago, was pretty good. Yeah, so how about Otani? Holy cow. I mean, they call it the Otani game, but they're being hard pressed to find. And I mean, the fact that it was postseason and it was the last game of a series, I think what they should do, I think they should do a pay-per-view where they take the Yankees and they just have Otani versus the Yankees. So he just pitches to them, and then he's the only batter for the Dodgers. Just Otani versus the Yankees, and see if he could win. They might get some runs or whatever, they might, but then if he hits a home run, because keep in mind, if he's the only batter, then they would have to put up, they would have to get, he would be at bat at least 27 times. So they'd have to face 27 Otanis. So I wonder if he could literally beat a team by himself, because that's kind of what happened in that game. That was freaking and crazy. And there are people that are like, I'm not even a baseball fan, not even particularly a Dodger fan. Probably that's the team I've seen the most in person. I was up on the 5th level and saw Hideo Nomo got his first hit, or maybe it was his first home run. I think it was his first at-bat, and he got a hit, first at-bat. Dodgers have always had fairly good hitting. Oral Hershiser, who I knew, he was a pretty good hitter. I mean, he still wasn't 200 in his career or anything like that, but for a pitcher, he would get singles. He could hit. But Otani was a whole nother. You're a Yankee fan, yeah, that's cruel. Yeah, he would probably beat the Yankees single-handedly, but he could beat the Dodgers single-handedly. I don't care what team you put against him, he could probably beat. He'd strike out the side nonstop. Oh, you're a Dodger fan for life? Yeah, 6'9". Yeah, it's one of the few. Well, I always complain about this because LA fans are very, very fickle. But it didn't help that we didn't have an NFL team. We're the second biggest market in the country. We didn't have an NFL team for 20 years. Completely ridiculous. I mean, the Raiders weren't ours. So Al Davis brought them down here for money, and then we ended up with a whole lot of Raiders fans down here. But probably the most popular football team in LA, NFL team, is the Niners. because everybody became Niners fans when we didn't have the Rams became the St. Louis Rams, and even the Rams before that they were in Anaheim, so it was kind of like. And the Raiders played at the Coliseum, so they were and they were the LA Raiders. But yeah, and so if the Rams are playing the Raiders, you'll see. Well, if the Chargers are playing the Raiders, you'll see it'll be 5-1. You'll have more black out there than yellow and blue. There'll be 5 Raiders fans for every 1 Chargers fan. This is no Charger fans. The Rams. I thought, oh, they won the Super Bowl. Now you'll have a bunch of fair weather fans and stuff. But if they're playing the Niners, it's 50-50. Half of the stadium is rooting for the Niners. Now, when we saw the Colts play a few weeks ago, there were Colts fans there, but it was less than 10%. So when the crowd was loud, it was loud. And it was hard for Daniel Jones to call plays. And it caused a couple... Like there were a couple penalties, so there were probably 3 penalties that were. One was a delay game, and 2 were the offsides, and it was because of the fans, the 12th team member or whatever. So, yeah, I'll need to check out that. I need to watch the highlights. The one thing that's about on YouTube, the NFL games, you can see like a 15-minute highlight reel. And you can boil most NFL games easily down to 15 minutes. I mean, what was the one I was watching last night? It was kind of sad because the highlights they weren't like, oh, look, it's a 6-yard pass play. And I'm like, oh my gosh, a team is bad when they boil the highlights down to 15 minutes and you're seeing like 6-yard pass plays, 4-yard run plays, a batted ball. It's like, oh, wow. Bad. I forget what game it was. But it was like one of the teams was getting no love from the highlight reel, and it's their own fault. But yeah, LA fans, but the Dodger fans, they go to a Dodger game. Now I've been to Dodgers when they played the Mets, and well, I took my dad. Speaking of my dad, I took my dad to see a Dodger game. He and my dad lettered in 3 sports. He actually got drafted, or was it not drafted? I don't know if they had the draft back then, but he graduated high school in 1949, and he got scouted by the Cardinals, and they picked him up to put him in a farm club, and he didn't do it. He went to college instead. He went to Michigan State. But he was a switch hitter, so he could bat left and right, and he what was his position? I mean, I think he played multiple positions. Probably outfield. He's very fast. He also played halfback in football. Tailback is what they called it back then. He played tailback in football. And I think he wanted me to be athletic. I played tennis, but, being blind in one eye, when I played basketball in Indiana, of all places, my friends called me Air Strahle because I was throwing up air balls. And that was before Air Jordan. So when they said Air Jordan, I was like, what, is he really bad? Like, when they called someone Air Jordan, I thought that was a cut. I thought that was a dig. Because it's like, yeah, that's me. I was like, boom, and it would go over the hoop, go over the backboard. I'm like, yeah. Oh, they were up 19-0. Oh, God, Gary. Gee. Yeah, I'll watch it later today, maybe. Oh, nice. One of the Rams is from your tribe. Yeah, it's the Rams are good. I think they're pretty good. Are they? For me, the measure is, can they beat the Chiefs? So the only thing I care about is beating the Chiefs. I don't really care. I'll root for any team. I don't care. If you can beat the Chiefs, I'm happy. The Patriots are getting better. Can the Colts beat the Chiefs? I don't know. I just don't want to see the Chiefs in another Super Bowl. It was kind of like when the Patriots were going to all the Super Bowls, I didn't care who they were playing. I was rooting for the Giants. I was a Redskin fan. I was rooting for the Giants because I didn't want Tom Brady to get another ring. In retrospect, I'm like, it's pretty impressive to get to see some guy win 6 rings. I think he went 9 times or something, won 6 rings. How many does Mahomes have? Does he have 3? And he got those 3 faster than Mahomes got, or than Brady got his 3. But I think I don't know. Okay, here's an opinion. Yeah, Indiana University is ranked top 3. Crazy. And Penn State tried to take their coach, and he's like, nope, I like Indiana. I'm not going anywhere. Why would he leave a top-ranked team to go to Penn State? I don't get it. Penn State's got issues. Okay, go to your appointment. Take care. Hope you're healthy. Yeah, Indiana basketball is a real deal. Yeah, 100%. But what were we talking about? I forgot what I was going to say. I get sidetracked by the chat. Talking sports, not really my wheelhouse, but I'm kind of into it. I was a lot more into sports before the kids were born. That was one of the things I gave up once we had kids. I was like, you know what, I gotta give up something to make sure that I'm raising kids. I'm not just gonna sit in front of a TV and have them be couch potatoes with me. Holly, you're redacting. What did you say? Bye, Bob. Bloomington, Iowa, or Indiana? Bloomington's great. I played in Bloomington a lot with my bands. I remember playing 2 frat parties, one on a Saturday night and one on a Sunday afternoon. They had an ice cream social in Indiana when I was in high school with my band. And I've told that story before. And it was funny because Janice, there was a female singer in the band, we were doing disco. And she was like 15, I think, and I was like 16 or 17. And we stayed in what was going to be ultimately become my future brother-in-law's house. Like my sister was dating this guy who was an art professor, and he had this house that they painted in, and they weren't allowed to live in it, but he was living in it. It was a painting studio for like 4 different painters, and so he let us stay there, and so we didn't have to pay for hotels or whatever. And the band, we all brought sleeping bags, and Janice was there, and Janice, like, I slept here, and Janice slept right next to me, and the other band all slept over here because she did not trust anybody else. She was like, she said, I'm not, so she put me between her and the band. I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, aw. But yeah, that was pretty crazy, going to frat parties when you're in high school and playing at them. And we were a pretty good band. I mean, I don't even know if they knew we were in high school, although the bass player was 13. But I looked like I was 13. I was like 17, and I looked like I was 13. Pat, the bass player, was 13, but he looked like he was 25. Like, I think he got a girl pregnant when he was 14. He ended up getting married at 14 or 15 or something like that. It was crazy. Yeah, Pat, that was insane. But he was a fun guy. I mean, we had a blast. I mean, so many great memories doing all that stuff. Nothing nasty or nefarious or anything like that. Nothing illegal. All on the up and up, but just goofing off and being teenagers and playing rock music and disco music. At the time, disco was really big. So it's why we had a girl singer, because we needed someone to sing like, Boogie Oogie Oogie and things like that. So, yeah, but Bloomington, Indiana is a beautiful town. It is, and there's some decent clubs there and stuff like that. I don't think I ever played a club down there. I think I just did frat parties at frat houses, pretty much. I can't remember doing anything. I know it, because we didn't really play clubs because clubs didn't pay much. We did a couple clubs. I think because some of the guys in the band wanted to do clubs because they didn't like doing frat parties. And keep in mind, the band was all older than me. But all right, So I should probably log off. I'm losing people, I'm sure, just talking about playing in a band. Oh, we got up to 27 though. That's pretty good. I stopped teaching right around then, and then it went downhill. So, so go back on the video. You know, like I said, we did the dyads with a chromatic lead in, and then I showed you triads. You should be able to figure out all these things. If you want to, you can write down the letter names of this. I can do that too. Here, hold on a second. Let me do. Basically, this scale. That's what's up there from the first R to the last R. That's the notes. So if you do in every other thing, it's C, E, D, F, E, G, F, A, G, B, whatever. And so those are dyads. So you make dyads generally. Dyads could be any two notes, but in this case, we're making dyads using thirds. So a third is the root or one note, skip a note. And then, so it'd be this, okay? C, D, E, there's a third, okay? D, E, F. It looks like I'm doing something wrong. D, E, F would be a third. E, F, G is a third. G, A, B is a third, okay? So you can do all those thirds, and then if you want to do the triads, then it's the same thing. It's C, E, G. You want to do seventh, C, E, G, B. You want to do ninth chords, C, E, G, B, D. Okay? And then if you want to, then you can do the chromatic lead into each one of those. So the C dyad is this, the C triad, the C seventh, the C major ninth. Okay? It just sounds like jazz, right? And that's just one variation. Keep in mind you can mix those notes up and do all sorts of crazy things. But that's kind of what we talked about today. I'll leave this up so we can reference it next week. We're going to do more of these. Dyads are not double stops. No, dyads are just two-note chords. You can kind of think of them as like if you play two notes, one right after the other, that's an interval. Like if you were to do interval training. What's that interval? Well, that's a tenth. What's this interval? That's a seventh. What's this? That's a sixth. That would be like interval training. But if you play them together, it's a dyad. Triad is three notes. Dyad would be two notes. So like a power chord, D5 chord, that could be a dyad. Unless you played three notes, then it would be more than a dyad. But a dyad is just a two-note chord. But in this case, all our dyads are just a harmonized C scale. So I'm taking a C scale, and then, and then I'm going up a third and just harmonizing it up the way, okay? And that's kind of what's happening here. Sorry, my brain's getting tired. But then we did chromatics. So if you go back in the video, go to the beginning of the video. That's when I talk about that stuff, and then I got off on stories and stepdads and stepmoms and making my dad mad and all that stuff. So if you care about any of that, you can watch. I'm amazed at how many people watch these videos later, right? Because I mean, we have 27 people max, right? But these videos, my live streams will get 500 views. Now, it's probably mostly people just like starting it and then going, nope, and then going. But in fact, a lot of times if I look at my analytics for the live streams, I will often lose subscribers, not gain subscribers from my live streams, just because like, oh, why did this show up on my feed? I don't want to watch Tom talk to people randomly about his stepdad. So, oh, that was one thing I was going to say that I didn't say. My stepdad, who didn't understand my career, because again, like I said, he was an insurance guy. He was ran a pension company. He still came to my gigs. He and my mom would come to my gigs in town with that band. We would play at clubs in Indy sometimes just to play, to work on new songs, things like that. He went with me because my first real amp was it was in the Trader, which was the kind of the used stuff magazine newspaper in Indianapolis. Probably still exists as a website, but it was kind of like that. And it was kind of like the Craigslist, right, of the day, except it was newspaper. But it was in a crappy neighborhood, and Bill wanted to go with me. He was like, I need. You can't go there by yourself with cash. I think it was $200 for this acoustic amp. So he went with me, and when my main Strat got stolen, my 70s Stratocaster got stolen. I didn't have any money to buy a new one. He loaned me some money to buy a new guitar. So it was. He endorsed it. I wished he could have seen my success. He never, by 91 I hadn't really done anything. I'm trying to think. They came out. I don't think I was even in 91. I wasn't even leading worship anywhere. I think I was just doing guitar lessons and playing at church, playing guitar at church, and maybe not even doing any sessions. I kind of had a band that was doing nothing. So, yeah, it was pretty. It was, and he died in 91. It was right 2 days after Christmas. But it was like they probably came out earlier that year. I probably have pictures of them out with us. So he had a brain tumor. Crazy. It's crazy. They basically gave him a frontal lobotomy, so he lived another 6 months, but he wasn't himself. He was a totally different person. So weird. Okay. Oh, yeah. Indiana University is a very good opera school, and it's also very good for set design, but it's the farm club for the Met Opera in New York. Okay. Yeah, I keep saying bye, and then I don't sign off. I'm like a bad parent. Come on, it's time to go. Let's go, kids, get ready. And then you talk to the people for 10 more minutes, and the kids are back playing. Yeah, that's not how I parented, though, by the way. When we said our yes meant yes, our no meant no. Boom, that's it. We said time to go. We had to honor it, too. We held ourselves to the same rules we held the kids to. And so that's why I would have friends call me. It's like, how did you get your kids to leave all immediately? Like, we had people that would take us to dinner when they were pregnant just to grill us on how to raise kids because they loved our kids. They're like, why are your kids so quiet? Why are they just reading books? Why are they doing this or doing that or whatever, And so, yeah, it was all Beth. It had nothing to do with me. If it would have been me, it would have been chaos. But with Beth, she made sure that our home was not chaotic. It was a very peaceful home. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 kids. You don't really have a choice. It was very clean, and it was very... Oklahoma produces great singers. I didn't know that. Well, Glenn Campbell, right? Wasn't he from Oklahoma? All right. I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. We'll pick this up more next week. I know it's kind of off a lot of your skill sets, but having any fingering licks like this is really good for your fingers and learning how to solo and learning how to keeping your fingers limber for playing. So it's good. Like I said, I don't really teach songs. We've done a little bit of that. Gotten a little trouble for that with YouTube, so I don't really like to do that. But David Rawlings, Gillian, yeah, Gillian's great. Yeah, I love them. You know who else is speaking of David's, you know who else is David Gates from Christine Chetworth, yeah, Christine Chetworth. David Gates is from Oklahoma, isn't he? Is he from Tulsa? I know his nephew, Bob Gates. Bob's a good friend of mine. And that's David Gates' nephew. I've been friends with Bob since he was in high school, like probably 40 years. Almost 40 years, yeah, since I moved here. Yep, you have a blessed day too, 6'9". Yep, okay. If Holly's leaving, I'm not going to stay. There's no way. Not going to happen. Talk to you guys later. Bye. God bless. Bye.